Hello and welcome to this video on FOB contracts. My name is Ghulam Mustafa and today we will explore one of the most commonly used terms in international trade, FOB or free on board. By the end of this session, you will understand the key features of FOB contracts, the duties of the buyer and seller, the transfer of risk and costs, remedies for breach, and some important case law that governs those contracts. FOB contracts are integral to global trade because they allocate responsibilities between the buyer and the seller in a clear and structured way. Let's dive into the details. What is an FOB contract? FOB stands for free on board. Under an FOB contract, the seller fulfills their obligations to deliver the goods when they place them on the vessel nominated by the buyer at the port of shipment. Ownership and risk pass to the buyer at this point. For example, imagine you are importing machinery from Germany to the UK under an FOB agreement. The German seller is responsible for delivering the machinery to the port and loading it into the ship. Once the goods are loaded, the risk and responsibility shift to you, the buyer, who then handles shipping, insurance, and other costs. FOB is widely recognized because it provides a standardized framework for international trade and is even included in the Incoterm, which are published by the International Chamber of Commerce. Key features of FOB contracts. There are three essential elements of an FOB contract, like delivery point, risk transfer, and cost allocation. Delivery point: the seller's responsibility ends once the goods are loaded into the buyer's vessel. They must also provide export documentation such as the bill of lading, which proves that the goods have been loaded. Risk transfer: the moment the goods are loaded into the ship, the risk of loss or damage transfers to the buyer. This means that if something happens to the goods during transit, it is the buyer's responsibility. Cost allocation: the seller covers all costs until the goods are loaded, including export duties and loading charges. The buyer is responsible for shipping, insurance, and import duties after the goods are loaded. This clear division of costs and responsibilities makes FOB contracts popular among traders. Duties of the seller and buyer. Let's break down the specific duties of the seller and buyer under an FOB contract. The seller ensures that the goods meet the contract's specifications, whether that's the quality, quantity, or description. Arrange export license and clearance, deliver the goods to the agreed port and load them into the vessel nominated by the buyer. The buyer nominates a vessel and notify the seller well in advance. Arrange and pay for shipping and insurance for the goods. beyond the port of shipment, pay any import duties, and take care of customs clearance at the destination. These duties must be carried out promptly and in accordance with the terms of the contract to avoid disputes. Remedies for breach. Despite best efforts, breaches of FOB contracts can occur. Let's look at the potential remedies available to each party. Seller's breach. If the seller fails to meet their obligations such as loading the goods into the vessel on time or providing non-conforming goods, the buyer has remedies. For instance, in the case of Bose versus Shand, 1877, the buyer repudiated the contract because the seller did not meet the agreed shipment terms. Remedies include rejecting the goods, claiming damages, or even rescinding the contract. Buyer's breach. If the buyer fails to nominate a vessel or delays payment, the seller may suffer losses. For example, in Bonge Corporation versus Tradex Export SA 1981, the court emphasized the importance of timely performance under FOB contracts. The seller can sue for damages or recover costs incurred due the buyer's non-performance. Relevant legislation and case law like FOB contracts are governed by several legal principles and cases. In Courtrooms 2020, these standardized trade terms define FOB obligations including cost, the risk allocation. Sale of Goods Act 1979 in the UK. This legislation governs many aspects of FOB contracts, particularly regarding the quality and conformity of goods. Like case law in Pioneer Company Limited versus India Steam Navigation Company Limited 1954, the court clarified when risk passes in FOB contracts, reinforcing that it is at the point of loading. Similarly, in Bonge Corporation versus Tradex Export SA, the court highlighted the importance of adhering to contractual timelines, benefits, and challenges of FOB contracts. FOB contracts offer significant benefits such as clearly defined responsibilities and risks for both parties, greater control for the buyers over shipping and insurance beyond the port of shipment, cost effectiveness for sellers as their responsibility ends once goods are loaded. However, there are challenges. Disputes may arise if there is a delay in vessel nomination or documentation. Miscommunication between parties in different jurisdictions can cause delays. If the buyer's insurance is inadequate, they may bear significant losses after the goods are loaded. Now, the concluding remarks. In conclusion, FOB contracts are vital in international trade, providing a clear framework for the delivery, transfer of risk, and cost allocation between buyers and sellers. Understanding these contracts along with their legal implications and case law is crucial for minimizing disputes and ensuring smooth transactions. Thank you for watching this video on FOB contracts. If you have any question or would like further clarification, feel free to reach out. Good luck in your studies and professional endeavor.